Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tradesman Experience. This is the podcast built by tradesmen for tradesmen. My name is Josh, and in the conversation you're going to hear, I have the opportunity to talk with Bob Turner. Now, Bob is a fellow coach, fellow podcaster, fellow entrepreneur, and has just done a lot of things and is entering into this new season in his life. You'll find out that Bob in his 50s is in the process of selling the business and really growing and focusing on his coaching and serving others. But the thing I loved about the conversation is the alignment that Bob and I have. He's all in on helping others. And I'm excited to get to collaborate with him in the future. He's invited me onto his podcast as we come up, but I just got a lot of value out of this. It's really a coach to coach conversation, but hopefully you get some value out of it. Hopefully you enjoy it. Guys, thanks for being here. Enjoy the conversation. Get shit done. See ya. For the sake of not having a scripted conversation, I do want to kick off with one single question. Looking at this impressive resume, and modestly don't disagree with me because it's an impressive resume. You've got, the book, the coaching, the 6-time Ironman finishing. You've got your remodeling business for 20 plus years now. Take me back to the turning point, Bob. Was there one significant thing? Was it a combination of things? When did you have that turning point, and when you just had enough?
I think it was when I was on the I had a lot of guys start calling me, I was in the other contractor group, and guys started calling me. They're like, hey, you seem like you could help me with this. Do you have some time? Where I would schedule a sales role play call, and somebody would, all of a sudden it would just turn into this organic coaching session, somewhat because I'm older than most of the people that are in the groups at 55. But I also, when I was doing the triathlon stuff, I just kind of naturally, migrated to coaching and helping people because I got half decent at it. So people are like, how do you do that? Can you help me? And I guess I'm an empath. So I take on other people's stuff. I want to help them. I try to come from a place of service, but it was a day where I was talking to one guy on a phone, and I hung up the phone. I spent an hour with him, and I was pacing around the house here and just talking strategy. And I clicked off the cell phone, and I said out loud to no one here, that fills my cup. And I sat there and thought about it for a minute. I'm like, you know what? I really need to pursue this. And that was in late 2022. And I said, I'm not going into 2023 without starting my coaching business and going, hanging a shingle, whatever you call it, and saying, okay, now we're gonna, I'm gonna get paid for this. It's gonna be my time, and if I'm gonna focus on this, then we'll create a business from it. And it also happened to coincide with a time where I felt like no matter what I did in contracting, I was not striking out, but having frustration. And I noticed my tolerance level, was my stress level was always here. And I was as I got older, I just had less and less tolerance for a plumber that doesn't show up when he says he's going, a flooring guy that says, I'll be there Monday. And then you hear nothing, and says right in front of a customer, yeah, no problem. I'll be there Monday, 8 a.m. Fine. And then have the customer call me at 10 and say, hey, what's up? So I felt my own credibility going out the window. And that kind of stuff just cuts across every fiber in my fabric, so to speak, as far as my own core values. And so helping people in the coaching space just felt like more of a natural. And I've just gone all in on it ever since.
You focus on performance, right? Is that kind of like your, I don't want to call it a niche, but I'm interested in how you define performance and what you're looking for.
Yeah. I had one of my clients, a younger guy, said to me one time, and I don't know if I was talking to him about a testimonial or something, but he said, Bob, he says, I feel like with you're a performance coach, a life coach, an endurance coach, a business coach, and a life and performance coach, all wrapped into one. And he's the biggest compliment he paid me was this. He said, I don't feel like there are too many conversations that we could have where you couldn't add some value. Mm. And I thought that was pretty cool. And so I've worked with people that in branding and trying to get the coaching business going down a path. Hey, you need your experience as contractors, man. Your niche, the riches are in the niches, So I would say that's kind of still evolving. I feel like I can help anybody that's running a business, because I've worked. I've had my own. I've started. I've closed. I've opened. I've restarted. I've worked in corporate. I worked for $100 million lumber company here locally, and been sitting in the boardroom and shredding the P&Ls and looking at all the things. So I've done a lot of things, and so I guess probably best described as performance as it relates to what you're doing, whether it's your life or your business. And I find that on my coaching calls, I work with people on 4 pillars. I go sales, leadership, systems, and mindset. And I find that cuts across just about everything that we're doing. If I check in on those 4 things with you on a weekly basis, we're gonna stumble onto, we're gonna run into what you're tripping over this week. And so I really enjoy the figuring out of things with people, the strategy. I take on their stuff. So as you know, it can be exhausting at the end of the day with, and my fiance, Wendy, schedules all my calls and everything. She's like, you sure? She goes, you got a jam-packed day on Thursday. Are you sure you want to pop that last one in there? I go, get him in there. That's my mission. I want to get him in. We got to get him in. So I just lead with helping people. And I just find that I 9 times out of 10, I can find something that we can tweak. Whether it might be like, hey, dude, I know you like to work out. When's the last time you worked out? Well, I just don't have time for that right now. Let's unwrap that a little bit. So sometimes people just they need that. I'm awfully surprised at how many people just need accountability. High performing people that just say, man, I just need somebody to check in with. I'm like, I can be that. You might not like me.
The high performing people do need that. I know I need that.
Sure.
And between Katie, my business partners, and my clients, I don't run short of people to be accountable to.
Right.
Because I know one of the things for me in the coaching world was I never wanted to be accused of being a hypocrite.
Right.
So if I'm going to preach it and I'm going to teach it, I'm going to act on it first. And that's always been a just core value for me. Yeah. Because I know in the coaching space, and Bob, this, there's not a lot of us in the blue collar world that are doing this, what I consider to be right. And what I define as right is people first.
Right.
Profits are great. They're necessary. They're a byproduct. Sales is communication, training, and serving, not trying to get people to buy things. But I too believe that it's performance. I think performance comes from behavior, and behavior comes from beliefs. So those conversations, when you start peeling back those layers, it's like, well, why do you do this? Well, okay, well, why is this what you think? And I had a guy tell me one time, he said, I appreciate the fact that you don't tell me how to think, you teach me. You don't tell me what to think, you teach me how to think. And from what I've learned about you, and because it is such a small world, we have several mutual acquaintances, and yet our paths had never crossed until now. But I appreciate the fact that you are coming into this arena with the sense of people first, and I really feel like that's what your approach is.
Yeah, I know that because when I look at my bank account, I know that I'm not just out just sell. Like it has to be a right fit. And
coaching is like being a starving artist,
Hey, when I tell them, hey, my job is to work myself out of a job.
That's it. And
they say, well, that doesn't make much sense. Sure does, because if I do, then you're going to tell somebody, and they're going to tell somebody, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm okay with that. But I enjoy, I just enjoy helping people. And, honestly, I do it for free, and I think there's a lot of people well, I'd say a lot of people. There's some people in the space that, hey, let me show you the way to 8 figures. Hey, let me show you this. And I've bought into some of that stuff before. I've said, hey, if you've got the way to monetize this coaching business and can show me the path, then sure, I'll write you a check and I'll do what you say, because you've obviously done it. And I've gone through that a couple of times. And it wasn't until Wendy said to me, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, she goes, can you just realize for a second that you really don't need anybody? Like, you're already really good at what you do. Just go do it.
Do you think that it was taken away from your authenticity by trying to plug yourself into somebody else's formula?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. And it sounds good when somebody says, hey, I can show you the path and we'll do this. And I'm like, okay. But again, I didn't want, the first thing you got to do is just go all in on contractors. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Because I feel like I could help a real estate agent. I feel like I could help somebody that's doing just about anything and be able to have a conversation. I guess one of my skills, I believe, is being able to say hard things to people without making them feel bad. Because sometimes people don't understand, they don't know how to deliver that to someone, package it so that a person with a certain personality can unpack it on their own. And like you said, kind of arrive at their own conclusion. And I've done that with coaches that I've worked with. I'm like, hey, I see what you did there. I feel like I just solved my own problem.
Yeah.
Well, not really, but yeah, I asked you the questions.
You got Miyagi'd.
Yeah. I'm like, what just happened to you? So, and I try to grow, and, like you, I'm sure you try to continue to hone your craft and work on things and just get better all the time, become a better listener, take a different approach with a different client, and I just enjoy the hell out of the game, and just being in it and being way more fulfilled at the end of a day, even though I'm exhausted, being way more fulfilled than if I remodeled someone's bathroom or, got the concrete poured on time or whatever, or didn't blow my top at the roofer or whatever it is. I feel like I've been there. I've done that. I have more to offer. And that's really probably in a nutshell what I'm up to.
I didn't realize how exhausting coaching would be. And I think it's exhausting for me because it's emotional. And it's emotional because I give a shit. I care. And my approach to any of my clients is, look, this is not a coach-player relationship. I'm on your team.
Right.
I'm a cog in this wheel that you have put into your machine and on your team. And that's how I want to play. So I get emotional when they have to fire somebody and we have to come up with a strategy to do that, or when the bank account's empty and they're 90 days over on AR and they don't know how they're going to make payroll. I get emotional about that because I care about them. And I feel like I'm in this with them, even though, after the Zoom call, my life is still waiting on me, but emotionally for me, being vested in those. And I think that's something that's necessary for effective coaching, especially when you're talking about things that we talk about. And it's really nice listening to you, Bob, because I'm learning more and more of how aligned you and I are, and how similar I think some of our approaches are, which makes me extremely happy. This is my happy face, Bob. But
good to with the beard.
Yeah, it's all my faces look the same.
Well, it was a time where I'll share this story. I had a guy that one of my first few clients, and boy, he had a tough year last year. He did some things that, he got some cash in and he paid down a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. Don't do that yet. Let's keep a little bit of, so I was coaching him along and he did his thing. And several months later, we were, kind of, she's breaking up, and he said to me, I may have to step away from, I may not be able to pay you for a few months. And I said, man, that's fine. I said, but I'm not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and if we have to talk every single day for the next couple of months, that's what's going to happen. And I had another guy that's, gets personal stuff and did divorce and all that. And I'm like, hey man, I'm checking on you every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're doing this together. I'm with you. We're going to go through this together. And if that means that, we meet 2 or 3 times a week, we got to do that. And then, but also on the other end, hey, if I'm traveling a certain week next week or in a few weeks when everything's cool, we're not going to worry about it. But I guess my point is that when I went through those kinds of things with those guys, I'm like, I'm doing this for the right reason. And I believe that if you do, you got to get paid. We've all got to eat next week, right?
Right.
I think the money will follow. And that's probably the biggest lesson I've learned from people that I look up to that are doing it right. Just lead with helping people. The money and the success, as they say, will follow. And that's where I'm grinding right now.
Something you said, helping people maybe sometimes personally. I think it's all personal.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're dealing with people. I don't care what the business is, you're dealing with people. And there's a dichotomy to that, because I think it's all personal, but at some point you can't take everything personally, right? I think that's the dichotomy. But it is personal because it is people, and you're dealing with emotions, and you're dealing with lifestyles, and you're dealing with experiences. It's like there's no plug and play formula that replaces the human factor. And that's why I always get hesitant of same thing. Do these 8 things to scale your business to $70 billion. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay, I understand the formulas, but you get so far over that you start removing the human factor. Systematizing a business is necessary until you over systematize and start removing the human factor. And there's a huge gray area, right, that you and I tread in coaching and having these conversations, because there's again, sometimes it's absolutely necessary. And then sometimes you're like, well, what does your gut tell you? Throw the rule book out the window. What's your gut tell you? And sometimes you have to rely on that. I had a guy yesterday that called up, and he had set up a call with me, wanted to talk about doing some coaching. And I said, well, what are you struggling with? He's like, man, and he's a builder guy. He says, I'm overweight. I procrastinate. I don't deal with stuff when I should. And then I blow up, and I got to do this and I got to do that. And I said, okay. So I should have called you a long time ago. And I said, that's okay. We can get going on it. Mm-hmm. And those are all things that I've struggled with, and I'm sure you have too, and we still struggle with today. And I think that somebody told me once, they said, well, I was worried about, like, I didn't have a story, right? Some of the guys in this space have a story, a trauma they've been through, or something major that they kind of lean on, right, as some sort of credibility. And I said, I don't feel like I've really got a story. And some of the person I was talking to said, well, of course you do. You just need to find it and be able to tell it, And so I've done that and created my own story. But I think that sometimes I guess my point, what the point I was going to make there is that you only have to be a lap or two ahead of somebody in life or business, or have gone through something, to be able to turn around, reach back, that's right,
and help them out. And so sometimes I feel that way with my clients. Is like we're on the same path. It's like as a kid, when you realize your parents are just 20 or so years older than you, they're still figuring shit out too. They're just normal people. It's kind of fun.
Something I heard one time, and this is going to take me to an imposter question. But something I've only heard one person say it, and it was Ed Milet. And he said, the middle class is the hardest place to be successful from, because just what you said, there's no traumatic story there,
right?
You don't come from extreme poverty and harsh conditions and then come rags to riches, and then on the other side you don't come from wealth and generations of success where you're put in this position. And he was talking about the middle class, and I felt the same way, Bob, and I still struggle with that. I'm like, I don't have an overly traumatic story, that gives me a pulpit to preach from.
Right.
Because, and I think that's probably why I resonated or attached to what Ed Milet said, is because coming from the middle class, it's the hardest place to get to success from. So I agree with you on that. And then to my question is, have you fought with imposter syndrome going public and starting the coaching and everything?
A little bit. Yeah. At times. Sure. And, but I'm also I'm a fairly confident guy. And sometimes people that don't know me might think, oh, kind of he's a cocky guy. Not really. I'm just confident. Like, I'm a kind of guy that I can follow a strong leader. But if nobody's leading, I'm like you, brother. All right, you go over there and you go over there. Let's do this. And it might not be the right thing, but let's do something. I'm fine being accountable. Yeah, there's been some tables that I've been hesitant to sit down at, but also I think that those are kind of those times in your life where there are moments of truth, if you will, where you're like, all right, you doing this or not? Like, and I'm like, well, I've had some people say really nice things to me, and I'm going to lean on that. And, if there's somebody's got a speaking event or something like that, and they think somebody can get up and motivate or inspire or entertain, give me the mic, let's go. And if you want it, you take it. But I'm like, my philosophy is we only get one trip around this track. And I always say this, I'm not going to be looking for any change back when I'm done. I don't want it, a bunch of regrets, and they say that, this is a line, it's a personal development line. It might've been Ed Milet. I don't know who said it. Find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. Right. I think just my uniqueness is just how I relate to people and how I make people feel. And I just feel like I just want to deliver that. And I'm no stranger to being on a mic. I did my own DJ business for 20 years, 22 years, doing weddings and that kind of stuff. So the barrier of entry to this kind of thing might have been a little lower for me on the comfort side. Like I just feel like I'm all right on my feet, and I can, like you, I can guide a podcast or do a live and not be stumbling all over the place. But yeah, there's been some times. I remember when I stepped into the Ironman arena, we had done a bunch of shorter triathlons, and somebody said, I signed up, and somebody said, oh, Turner's going to do an Ironman. And I just used that as fuel, man. I just used it as fuel. Like, yeah, I'm going to do an Ironman. And so imposter syndrome sometimes, yeah, but not too much of a detriment, I would say.
You love public speaking then?
I enjoy it. Yeah.
I do too. And
yeah, I enjoy it.
It's funny because that's like the number one fear, like over death, like over drowning or falling or whatever. It's like the number one fear.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. I am more comfortable in front of 500 people than I am in a one-to-one conversation in a restaurant or like, because I made the joke with you earlier, like I'm a terrible conversationalist, but if I can speak in front of a bunch of people and it's very one-sided, I'm really good at that. So it's easy for me to flow that way. With the coaching, do you find that some people are scared of their own success?
Yeah, 100%. I would even include myself in that at times when there have been times where like I've got to a certain point and then either retracted or maybe it was a financial thing where maybe spend money foolishly so you only have so much, right? Because I don't know about you, but my family's not full of millionaires, and so yeah, I think there's some of that. People are afraid to step into that next level. And I'll ask them. It's a great question. I don't know where I picked it up. I certainly didn't invent it, but who does the future you need you to be right now? And do those things. And what are three things that, and I always give people three things, right? Because if it's any more than three, I have to start writing stuff down. But because I got a bad memory. But what are three things you could do to move the needle today or this week by the end of today? And a lot of times on coaching calls, I'll say, I'll end by saying, okay, for next week. And that's that accountability part where like, hey, you mentioned you were going to call 5 past clients. Okay. I'm going to write that down over here in the notes. It's going to be one of the first things I'm going to ask you about next week. So I try to put a little bit of accountability to it, but yeah, I see that from time to time, and we spend a fair amount of time on my calls saying, or talking about what does success look like to you? Because you might already be there.
So now I want to flip that over to the other side. And I'll ask you this personally. How often do you feel like you're not doing enough?
I would say not very often on the business side. On the personal side, like when I look around the corner and I see my nice weight rack sitting there, I'm like, geez, I haven't lifted in 2 weeks, or I didn't get out for the walk today because I wanted to shoot the podcast or I wanted to do this. So oftentimes on the personal side or the self-care side, I would say I feel like I got to do more. I got to, the product of going hard in the paint on this coaching business for closing in on 23, 4, 2.5 years now, is weight gain. And I'm like, who is this guy? Like there was a period of time where I'm like, I would get up every day and just laugh with Wendy and go, yeah, I gained another pound. I don't know what happened. I ate right yesterday and I exercised, gained another pound. So stress comes out in different ways, right? Making a major transition. So I finally got that in a headlock and it's coming down now, but I'm like, who is this guy? Because like you said, you preach personal business development, take care of yourself, these things. And frankly, if your gut's hanging over your belt, you're a fraud in my mind, like you said, I want to make sure that I'm doing the thing before I go preach it. So it's awfully easy to sit here and go, yeah, I did 6 Ironmans, but that was 40 pounds ago or whatever. It's like let's be within striking distance of where we.
Man, I love that. I think that's an authenticity that a lot of people misplace.
Yeah,
is business owner, and this is something that I'll just be honest. It's one of the reasons, not the reasons, but it's one of the reasons that I'm going back into business is because my success and failure story is getting old now. And I'm like, we need new experiences. We need new stories. I need to get back out there on the battlefield. Because I don't want that to be the anchor of my identity, the anchor of my future success or failure.
Right.
So I think that authenticity is necessary. I think it's genius. You're not doing it this bad, but I'll share this example because it's true. It's like the guy sitting at the bar that graduated high school 25 years ago talking about the championship game. Yeah. Right. Like they peaked in high school.
Yeah.
But the other part of that is it's not a straight line, right? No. It's peaks and valleys the entire ride. And it's easy to look back and anchor yourself to one of those peaks or one of those valleys. And that's the story that you tell your future self. Right. And it's like, you got to move that anchor and you got to get away from that. And I think we do that in business. I think we do that in our relationships, definitely in our personal life. I'm guilty of it. And so I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. There was a time maybe 6 months ago, I look back at these things. I'm like, I'm going to put those things in a box. And somebody said, why? And I said, I don't know. It's like, I don't want it to be looked at as a flex or this or that, but they said, it tells you a story. And when I look back at that stuff, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears hanging on the wall back there. And it just reminds me, it brings me back to focus. Like, dude, an Ironman is, if you're good at it, is 10 to 12 hours. If you're good at it, they give you 17 hours to do the race. So, most of the stuff up there represents a full day's of pain, and being in places where it was a lot harder than maybe a tough day at the office. So it helps me frame how I get through stuff today. It's like, well, Ironman for me is 10, 12 hours. This is going to be like a 5-minute hard conversation. I guess I can handle it. So it gives me good perspective. So
Yeah,
They stink.
that's interesting. But I keep looking behind you. You have a pretty excellent library back there.
Thanks.
I saw Dichotomy of Leadership. I see Traction behind you.
Yeah.
I see Winning by Tim Grover.
Yeah, I've got well, Extreme Ownership is up there
Mhm.
somewhere. That's probably my favorite of all those. But
Yeah, can I brag a second?
Yeah.
I have an autographed Extreme Ownership book
Oh,
from
nice.
from attending their first muster
Wow.
in San Diego back whenever that was.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. It was funny when I read that. It was a couple of years ago, and I was driving down the road in my truck, just not in a good place with contracting because I had hired some guys and they sucked. And I did a bad job hiring, and 5 or 6 of them all at the same time. Guys, come over here, work for me, we'll do this, we'll be great. And it was terrible. And I was talking to my coach at the time, and I said, these freaking guys, he goes, sounds like a leadership issue to me. And I go, boy, was I pissed,
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, who the hell does he think he is? Telling me this is a leadership issue. And I got thinking about it. And I don't know, that book came across my desk at the time, but he said to read it, whatever it was. I read it and I was like, okay. Everything that happens, I can tie back to me, good or bad. And so when I started leading with that, I was like, okay, I'm truly in charge here. And I can trace that back to poor leadership, poor hiring. I've heard you talk about that, poor hiring, firing, whatever, not putting the right people in the right positions. That is a leadership issue. So that was the biggest impact that book had on me. And I have to read them again and again because my retention is terrible, which is nice because, I get every time I read a book, it's a new experience. I try to get a few good things out of each one or a main lesson. And I keep them up there to be able to refer out to somebody. Like I'll be like, hey, listen, you need to read Marcus Sheridan's They Ask You Answer. You gotta read that. And so but it's growing. I wish I had, and I should be taking more time to read. And it's that, I don't know. Do you feel like you have seasons in life where you're just going hard in the paint on something, and that's okay for the moment? But it can't be forever, because when you're going like that, when you're kind of running WFO, as they say, you're on the clock, right? And the juice is running, so to speak. So I've just been really prioritizing sleep lately and just trying to get in bed early and kind of sleep till I wake up, as weird as that sounds. But I just,
there are days that I do that. It's not often, but there are times that when I go to bed, as long as my schedule the next day allows it, I have to listen to my body.
Yeah.
Which means I'm going to wake up when I wake up.
Yeah.
And getting older, I'm 43.
Yeah.
Recovery is training.
Yeah.
and it's so difficult for me to continue that because I really enjoy fitnessing. I enjoy being in the gym, but and Katie does a good job of reminding me. She's like, do you really need to go tomorrow morning? I'm like, oh, I don't need to go. and again, just like listening to your body, it's like, okay, recovery is part of training. Like that's a necessary piece. Yeah. And the seasons, right? Hard in the paint.
Right. Yeah.
Greg and I are at like we're almost to the last mile of this acquisition that him and I are doing.
Sure.
And it has consumed us. We're still doing the coaching, still running the electrical business, focusing on this acquisition. I'm still helping my other partner in Kentucky. I'm still trying to go to the gym. I'm still trying to pay attention to Katie, but this acquisition is the top of the food chain right now.
Right.
And I'm like, I know when this is over, it's just going to get busier, but it's going to be a different stress.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, once that starts, now we have to get back to structuring. I feel, and getting that in place. But it's not sustainable. And 25-year-old me would disagree with you, and 25-year-old you might disagree with you. So,
You sleep when we're dead, gonna
Yeah.
be dead a long time. I always say that.
but now completely agree. The quality of my sleep is top of mind a lot.
Yeah, 100%. And you can hit the energy drinks and you hit the coffee during the day or whatever, but nobody's outrunning, the sleep that I know of, and that people can do it for a while, but especially, and I've got 10 or 12 years on you. So it does. I had a guy tell me once, and it was in the triathlon arena. He said, you can get faster until 50. And I said, okay. And I was about 40 at the time. I'm like, oh, good. I got another 10 years. Right. And he was right. And now, you just kind of adjust things, right? It took me a while. Like, I did my last Ironman in 2019, and honestly, it was my slowest one. Still did it, and it was still a very respectable time. But it took me a while after that to shed that mindset of, like, if we're going to put that it was okay to go for a 3-mile run or even a walk. You wouldn't catch me walking. Like, if I was walking, I must have had a broken leg, right? I'm going to walk. Are you kidding me? Now I go for walks. I don't have to ride my bike. If we're going to get the bike out on Saturday, are we going 50, 70? And to me, like right now, I'm so far removed from that, right? Built up to that. But the mindset around that is that it's just okay. Just get out and move. Do something for 45 minutes. And that's just kind of where I'm at right now. On Sunday, we climbed a small mountain here. It's about an hour north of us. We just get out, and Wendy's 13 weeks off from a hip replacement. So just kind of going through her recovery with her has been my role. And we were just happy to be out there. And so it's changing for me. Like, somebody asked me what was my mind, body, spirit connection the other day. And I said, probably either leading a group in nature or being out on a trail and hiking and, working toward a summit and doing that. Those to me are my Ironmans today. Those little things.
You mentioned mindset. How do you lead people into improving their mindset?
Great question. How do I improve people's mindset? Probably through gaining clarity on what's actually going on, because I think oftentimes people will come to me and that they're overwhelmed, right? And if we can shed some of that overwhelm and just kind of take them from here down to here a little bit, where it's a little clearer, the air isn't as thin, so to speak. They can think a little bit more clearly. I'll check in with them and I'll ask them, just like, so how's your mindset in general right now? And I'll watch which road they go down. They might go down the business road. They might go down, things haven't been that great at home. And I'll ask them to think back to a time when they were great. What are the things that you were doing then? And all of a sudden, a light bulb will come on. Things were great. We were taking our evening walk together. We got away from that. And all of a sudden I look like a genius because I say, well, what would happen if? And they say, that's why you get paid the big bucks. Mostly listening. Mostly listening and just paying attention to what people have going on. Because it's funny. I was about 30 and I got thrust into a management role at a millwork shop because there was a change, and I was going to leave because the guy was I was going to go, I'd gone about as far as I was going to go. And he said, well, I'll fire that guy and put you in charge. I go, okay. So I went from doing the shop drawings to running a shop full of 30 guys. And I wasn't in that chair 10 minutes. And I looked, and my office door was filled up with guys that had stuff going on that had nothing to do with cabinets. And I just realized that if you're going to be in a position of leadership, you're going to tiptoe in that counseling world a little bit, and you're going to have to be a listener, and you're going to have to be empathetic to what people have going on. And I wear it to some degree. If somebody's got something going on, I take it on just like you probably do. But I try to sit for a minute right here after a coaching call and just take a couple of minutes. I'll type a few notes and then just say, okay. And I have to put that in the locker. Otherwise I own it. So I don't know if I really answered your question, but I really just try to, I guess, just listening, man. And a lot of these people don't have somebody that will just sit and listen and not judge. You know?
I think that's it. I think that is it right there. And I think to be an effective coach, you have to do exactly that. And same thing when somebody's like, "Oh man, how did you think of that?" Or "Oh, why didn't I think of that?" I always tell them, I said, because I'm detached from the situation.
Yeah.
I have no emotion
Right.
directly connected to what you're dealing with. You and I are in a controlled environment.
Right.
I'm completely detached, and you're giving me data.
Right.
I said that just gives me the ability to process it differently than you do, not because I'm better, because I'm in a different position.
Yeah.
But I think that's necessary. And what I try to do with my clients is I try to elevate them to that 30,000 feet. I'm like, let's get you above the business.
Yeah.
Let's get you detached. Let's get you separated so we can have these open conversations. And then the same thing, kind of once you unlock that, or you find that combination with them, they start coming up with solutions to their own problems, but they've got somebody that will listen, that they can bounce ideas off of, and is not going to judge them. And not going to say that's a stupid idea. I would never do it that way, and that's their cousin who's never owned a business ever.
Right.
And he's sitting there drinking a 30-pack of Natty Light at a family get together. And you're like, why am I taking advice from this guy? This is the worst thing possible.
What is that saying? Don't take advice from people who haven't been where you want to go.
That's right.
It's funny. It made me think, you really find out who you are as a coach the day that somebody just blatantly doesn't take your advice. Right. Or you say, hey, what would happen if we did this? Okay, so for next week, you're doing this. And then you get back together next week. Well, I didn't really do that because they weren't ready to do it, or they just weren't committed to doing it. And you have that moment as a coach where you're like, okay, all right, so I'm still supporting this person. We're still going to figure it out. We're just going to we hit the wall. That's not going to work. We're going to set over and either hit it again or go at it from a different angle. And that's, I think, when you really realize that you're in the trenches with people, when it's okay that they didn't fire the guy, or they didn't make the tough move, but then they do it on their own timetable, and they get there eventually. But everybody's got their own pace. So it's sometimes where you and I might be like, hey, do this, and this. See you next week. Doesn't always go that easy when you hang up the phone.
I also try to make sure that I don't give people commands.
Right.
And in 5 years of coaching, I've only done that, I think, one time, where I worked with a guy. He was telling me this, and I asked him, I said, you want my advice, and do you want the short version or the long version? I had a lot more colorful language than that, but and he was like, rip it off, like, tell me. And I said, you're going to bring that guy in, you're going to give him his last paycheck, and you're going to fire him right now. And there was just like this dead silence on the end. And he's like, today? I said, yes, we're getting off this call, and that's the only thing you're doing for the rest of the day. Right? So that's the only time I've ever given a direct command. Because I agree with you. What I learned is that momentum has to come before speed.
Yes, I agree.
And when I started coaching, the excitement, the ambition, speed was my focus. I had weekly meetings with clients, and it was like speed was my focus. And what I was finding is I wasn't meeting them at their level, and we weren't focusing on building momentum. It's like the speed will come, but we got to get the train moving.
Right.
And that's a slow start.
It is.
So that's one of the things I learned, and it forced me to restructure my entire coaching platform to be more accommodating in that regard, because I had clients that were like, hey man, we're going over so much in a week's time. I have 7 days to implement, and I'm setting them up for failure because they feel like they're failing. Not that they're actually failing, but they feel like they're failing. So I'm like, momentum first, then speed.
100%. Yeah, good stuff. It's interesting to talk to you because when you're in the bubble of creating something and doing something, you don't know what other people are doing, right? And I've had conversations with people, hey, what do you charge? How much time are you spending with people and all that? So I'm very much a rising tide lifts all boats kind of guy. And that's why you've seen me hanging around with Steve Rosenberg, because he just looked at me. He's like, dude, I'm just going to help you. You know, like, why? He goes, I don't know. I just like you. And I see some synergy here. And I'm like, okay. He's like, come down to Houston and see what I do, and take from it what you want. And me, that meant a lot, because I'm that way, and I'm not threatened by anybody. And I had Steve come up and speak at my event, and people said to Steve, why would Bob have you? You're a coach. Like Bob's a coach. Why would you? Steve's like, rising tide lifts all boats.
That's right.
He's able to get some clients out of there. I've delivered a great event locally, and it just works. And I just really lead with that. And try to help people, and not be threatened by other people in the business. So I enjoy having the opportunity to talk to people that are doing what I'm doing.
Me too.
Yeah.
And when I look at coaches that do things differently, sometimes you find somebody that just misaligns, and that's okay. You don't have to collaborate with those people,
right? But
when I look at Steve, and Steve is, I was having a conversation with Steve, and your name got brought up, and I'm like, okay, I need to get Bob on the podcast. And then Steve and Joni Wolfswinkel and myself we're putting together a 1-day event in Houston in August. So we've been doing a lot of collaborating and working together a lot. But what I love about it is we have different zones of genius, but we align.
Right.
And I think a lot of coaches get intimidated from other coaches, because they're like, well, again, like, why is Steve here? Like, why is Bob here? And I'm like, because Bob's zone of genius complements my zone of genius. That's why. And if he can help you be more successful, go work with Bob. And that's 100% how I feel. Yeah, I'm not here to steal. And I went to an event. I went to the Contractor Fight a few years ago, Tom's event. Yep, the Mile High Profit Summit. And I was and Tom had been on the podcast. He's been on my podcast a couple of times.
Same.
And throughout the day, it was really weird. Like, I started getting these whispers from people, and they're like, "Oh, you're also a coach? Like why are you here?" And I'm like, "What is going on right now?" So I think it was the end of the first day. During the networking, I pulled Thomas over to the side, and I was like, "Hey, man, like, man to man, I'm not here to poach from you."
Right.
And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, I keep getting this weird thing from like your team and other people. And I was like, I just want to make sure we're good.
Yeah.
Because we do different things in the same arena.
Right.
And that's okay with me. And he was like, nope, we're good. So as soon as I had that conversation with Tom, I didn't give a shit what everybody else thought.
No. He's been on my podcast too, and I've been on his, and he voice messaged me the other day, "Hey man, hope things are going great with Summit." Are some people that have been in the fight clients of mine? 100%. They don't offer one-on-one weekly coaching. You can't buy that there. So I've always felt like, and I don't think if I do 9 podcasts or 9 lives, I mention, or 10, I'll mention Contractor Fight on 9 of them. I'm always like, hey, if you guys are looking for group contractor coaching, go see Tom. I'm good buddies with a lot of the coaches in there. So I don't know. I don't know if you've ever Googled how many contractors there are in the country. I think it's like 700,000 to 800,000, right? So I think we'll probably all eat, even if we don't focus. So,
I think we'll be fine.
I think we'll be fine.
Even if 1% want to be better, we'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny. It's and honestly, that crew, Tom and his crew, are what catapulted me into, everybody else went to learn how to be better at contracting. I was there, and the coach fire got reignited in me, and that's really what happened. And and I made 300 or 400 great friends along the way. So,
Mhm.
and I got to see how I wanted to do things and meet some people. And so it's been great. It's been an interesting trajectory. So,
Mhm.
and I think it was time. It was time, because I won't say, I'm over contracting. I could go out and do it, and I restart today and probably do 1.5, 2 million. But it doesn't fill my cup.
Mhm.
It doesn't fill my cup. I want to, like, you get to, you're 43, you hit 50, start, now I'm mid 50s, and geez, I'll be 56 in August. But it starts to matter. Like, okay, you start to hear those footsteps. Like, there's only about 8 or 10 more years I'm really going to want to have to work, right?
Mhm.
So the word legacy starts to kicking around in your mind. Like, well, Bob was a good shit, and he remodeled some bathrooms pretty good and did a few Ironmans.
Right.
I'd like it to be more like, here's the group of people that Bob helped.
Mhm.
Here's the impact that he had while he was here. And that's that to me, we get back to, how do you measure success? That's it for me. Not, and hey, the bank account will be what it's going to be. Hopefully it'll grow over time. But to me, the measure of a life's work is, the impact you left on people, how you made people feel, right?
Mhm.
And how you were able to level up the people around you, so.
I agree. I completely agree. I wish that was the number that was on a tombstone instead of a birth date, death date. I wish it was the how many people you helped in your life.
Yeah.
I wish that was the metric that was stamped on there.
Yeah, and 100%. And like, I truly walk the walk. And that, there was a guy that was on a call I was on the other day, and he was struggling, and he's got a bunch of debt. And I'm like, I just called him up afterwards. I'm like, dude, I'm going to send you a Calendly link, and I want you on my schedule. He's like, I can't afford. I said, you and I are getting together once a week.
Mhm.
You figure that shit out. If at the end you want to hire me as a coach, fine, but I'm going to help you to the degree that I can. And I
Right.
don't see anybody else stepping up to do it. And the kid, he's just in tears. He's like,
Mhm.
I don't know how to thank you. I said, I'm not looking for a thank you. I lead with, how can I help people? And, he doesn't have the dough,
Mhm.
but does it kill me to take an hour once a week to pour into him? And hey, on the other side of it, maybe he says, hey, hiya, Bob. He helped me out in a big way. So, there'll be a payoff to it, but that's not what I'm doing it for. I'm
Right.
just doing it because it fills my cup, and, and it's a
That's
spot on my schedule, but
Mhm.
so be it. I'm okay with that. I sleep just
Yeah.
fine,
Yeah. I think it's important to help people. I've tried to do the same thing. I don't want
Yeah.
people to not better themselves because they can't make the financial investment right now. Like,
Right.
we're missing the point.
Yeah.
If the barrier to entry is just dollars and there's nothing available beyond that, um, it doesn't seem like the right cause. And in those conversations, what I try to tell those guys, they'll say, "Tell me thanks," and all that, and how can we repay you? I appreciate that. I said the biggest compliment you can give me is go be successful.
Just go do the thing. Yeah.
Go do the thing. That's it. That's
Yeah.
what I want to see. I want to see you 10 years from now on top of that mountain that you're staring at from the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the biggest compliment that you can give me.
Yep. 100% agree. I tell my daughter that all the time. I said, I hope you 10x me, over time.
Mhm, mhm.
Just go to get to the next level. I think that shows a lot about who we are, is how we helped people along the
Mhm.
way. I don't have all the answers, but I have 55 years worth of them.
Yeah. And I'll give you an answer. I don't know if it's right or not, but I'll give you an answer. That's how I feel, because
Yeah.
it is based on our own experiences. The leadership aspect of things. How do you have your remodeling business, your contracting company? How does that run now?
I'm phasing right out of it.
Okay.
Yep. I'm actually within a week or so of collecting the last check and being 100% done.
Oh, like
Yeah.
completely done with it. Okay.
100% coaching, consulting, development. all in. So yeah, really, there's the stress for you, right?
Ooh.
Because gone are those $75,000-$100,000 deposit checks that
Mm-hmm.
Can cover a lot of sins, right? As you know,
Mm-hmm.
and just and incoming is the acronym MRR, monthly recurring revenue. We're learning that. So yeah, I've just kind of skinnied things up, the financial footprint, tightened things up, and said that's how badly I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I'm just moving on from it. The stress from it, for me, is not something that I want to endure anymore. It's such that it is. I mean, I literally had to text a guy yesterday, and I just said, should I give up and move on and try to find another floor guy to come and take care of that thing that you told me you would be there on Monday? I'm done with it. And it just sends me to the moon. And so there are so many other good things I can do and things I can bring to the table and help people that, in order to do this the way I want, 100% coaching, speaking, doing events, maybe traveling a little bit, being involved in other people's events, podcasting, maybe another book, who knows? I just feel like the last working phase of my life, I want to be one that leaves a bigger impact. So
I respect that, because I feel like I still have more to give, and that's why I'm going back into business. And that's why I respect that so much.
Sure.
Like, because I know that will be a season of my life.
Right.
And I too love this. I want to get more involved with speaking and events and coaching at even higher levels of building this program. So I respect that. Where do you think we're headed as contractors and blue collar businesses? Where do you think we're headed?
I think it's an incredibly scary time, to be honest with you, because I don't know what the stat was. And you probably can quote it. For every 10 guys getting out of the trades, there's only 2 coming in, something like that. Whatever it was that I heard was really scary. I think the trades aren't, and Tom would agree with you, people in the trades aren't respected. People and even when I was in high school, it's, well, you don't want to not go to school. You'll end up swinging a hammer. Okay. My electrician a few years ago drove by here pulling a 40-foot boat. I don't have a boat, these guys, they're, the plumbers, the electricians, the HVAC guys are all doing extremely well. So I think there's a little bit of a collective looking down the nose at the trades. I think that sometimes when my experience has been like, we're a service provider, right? So we're automatically a lower life form, right? So I don't buy it. And I listened to, it must have been, I think it was your reel or your podcast today where you were talking about
the private equity.
And, and so I guess like with you and I, we're helping people with financial literacy. We're helping people with their leadership, their mindset, knowing what. I'm amazed at how many people don't know what cost of goods sold is and how it affects gross profit. And, I'm like, how's your COGS? And they're like, oh, well, great. I'm like, well, just curious, where's your pay? You don't work in the field. Well, it's up there in COGS. That's not where it belongs. So just getting them to be able to understand how to read the P&L and use it as a tool. So where we're going, it's scary, man, because with AI, with ChatGPT, with social media, with all the jobs, like my daughter runs a social media company. She handles it. That job didn't exist 20 years ago. So there are some jobs that exist that people get further and further away from the trades, but somebody's got to snake the pipes and make the switches, turn the lights on and that kind of stuff. And so I don't know. To answer your question, I really don't know. It's I like what Steve's doing, which is really promoting the trades. And his foundation, his Live Like Jet Foundation, I think is awesome. We get behind that and promote that, because there's honor in working with your hands, and I was a kid that, I came out of high school and I had the opportunity to go to college, and I was sitting there going, this sucks. I want to work. And that's what I went and did. And I didn't know shit. I didn't know how to turn, when I walked into the millwork shop for the first time, I didn't know how to turn on a router or a table saw or anything. The guy said, I'll teach you. I said, okay. And I still have all these. But yeah, I think it's scary. It's a dying craft, just the trades in general. So I know you have strong feelings about that.
I really do, because the reel that I posted about private equity, that was how I kicked off our first meeting in our blue collar boot camp. We have a 12-week online group coaching course, and that was my why. I wanted everybody in there. I said, this is why we're doing this. This is it. We have a mission. Our mission is to challenge and teach and elevate. But like, this is a big why that we're being faced with right now. And what scares me is that these companies are going to corporatize blue collar.
Yeah.
That's what scares me. And I don't think people really understand what that means, especially if they've never worked corporate. You've said you've worked corporate. I've also worked corporate. I survived 18 months and I was like, hell no. That was not my thing. Someone's going to get murdered. Okay.
Yeah.
And but what that is going to do to us, the other thing that I really wish people appreciated more was just the sheer camaraderie and brotherhood of the trades. Sure. And that's also going away. You made the, I think I heard a study recently that the age of the average concrete worker is 56 years old.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Nobody knows how to do anything.
Right. And, but if you've ever been, I mean, I don't know a more Jekyll and Hyde trade than concrete guys, maybe farmers, but yeah. my point is, like, I wish that we would do a better job of attracting and recruiting these younger men and women into the skilled trades.
Right.
Instead, we create this persona that repels them. Right. I mean, if you've ever been, you have, but if you took an 18-year-old today that comes from what has now become socially normal and acceptable, and you were to drop them onto a construction site for a week,
wouldn't last 10 minutes.
They
last 10 minutes.
They wouldn't last 10 minutes. And if they lasted a week, their entire outlook on life would change.
Yeah. Yeah. And the vocabulary would increase.
Very much so. Very much so. But I wish that we could create that experience for these younger men and women that want to come in, because if you brought even 500 high school students out and put them on a job site for a day, somebody is going to go, I've been looking for this. Like, I want to do this. I want to drive that giant piece of equipment. I want to walk rafters 30 feet in the air and, sign a crane. Like, somebody would want to do that, but it's the exposure that we lack, because again, you drive by a job site, there's no soccer mom that's going to look at their 12-year-old and go, have you thought about being one of those guys?
No, they say, go to school, go to college, and they'll end up doing that.
That's right. So yes, it's like it's comparative to success. It's not the definition of success. It's like you can be successful or be that.
Right.
And same thing. I'm like, you know how many millionaire blue collar guys I know? Like, come on.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. And I don't know the answer to that. I guess it's maybe just like the answer to so many other things is awareness and the right people getting behind it and making it happen. And I don't think it's weird. I in the frustrations with my own contracting business, I would say freaking COVID, COVID wrecked everything. And then I realized that I was kind of using that as a scapegoat, because somewhere along the line, it might've been during COVID, it might've been before or after, somewhere in the last 6 or 8 years, the business climate has changed with regard to people's character, integrity, level of give a shit. and just commitment to, and this is where it's really started to grind me. Commitment to doing it right. Like if you're my plumber and you charge me $6,500 and you come in and do the thing, I shouldn't have to redo the thing.
That's right.
I shouldn't have to reinstall the carpenter's treads. I shouldn't have to have the drywaller come back in and rerun the tape because now the painter came in and everything shines through. Do it right. Don't give me 2 coats, give me 3. Like all the stuff. And it seems like, and I don't know what triggered it. I don't know what triggered it. Maybe it's just there were so many other jobs or ways people can come out of school and, hey, be a YouTube sensation or be an affiliate marketer or do this and the quick like supernatural pace of going to be successful when you and I probably, I bought my first house, I was making $9 an hour. And I got a week of vacation and 15-minute break at 9 and a half hour at noon and one more at 2:45, 2:15, 2:30, and it was out at 4:15, and that was it. And you went from there and do a good job this year. We'll talk about moving you to 10 or something like that. Right. Holy shit.
Well, when you can go online and make $50,000 a month showing your butthole, who wants to make who wants to make 50 grand a year swinging a hammer? I mean,
exactly. No, I got to check out that OnlyFans thing.
That's right. I'm like, but you're right. Like the perception of success has been so distorted. And the one thing that has been consistent over the past decade or two is that the removal of hard work is the new equation to success.
Yeah. Right. No, it don't work so hard. I love a good, there's been times that, we're in the trades. Like, would you rather sit at the office and do paperwork all day? Well, I'd rather just go lump shingles up the ladder.
That's it.
Guys, you roof, I'll bring these to you. And this is going to be my workout today. I'm super excited to be here, but we, because of the kind of person that we are, and we're a hard driver and we want to do more, we end up in the office. We end up going to get more work. We end up building the business, creating leverage and doing the things. And now we have to, the only way to have success on a higher level is to rely on other people. That's where the rubber meets the road, where you're like, okay, how can I get people that believe in my mission, that are going to show up, that are the 5 minutes early is on time's late guys, and 5 minutes late, don't bother, don't want to see you. You probably worked for somebody in the past where you knew if you were late, that was your last day. They didn't even ask. I mean, it's well,
we're being held hostage because of the lacking workforce. So people are so scared to fire somebody now because they're terrified they're not going to find anyone to replace them, and that's a tough spot to be in.
It really is. And you would think the quick answer to that was, just charge more money, it'll fix everything. Not really, because then you're pricing things from a kind of a scarcity mindset, not abundance, and now you're that desperation. I don't care how you have it; it's going to come through in your sales process, right? And now people are just, let me get another price. This guy will do it for that. And now you're like, the thing that really rubbed me the worst was when I would go, I would show up, collar shirt, my notebook, and I'm decent on my feet and sell a job. Most of the time people, if they had been talking to someone else, most of the time it would be like, well, I think we just want to work with you. Great. Perfect. I would be good at establishing trust. And I would, my line would be, hey, the guys clean up good. They're really squared away. They're, the language, all of the things. I see you got the neighbors there. We're not going to, have the radio blasting. And then we would start the job, and all of that stuff that I said wasn't going to happen, happened.
I know it.
And my famous line would be like, guys, this isn't what I'm selling. Whoa, no, hey, find somebody else. I had a plumber tell me once, I said, hey, do you need to get like, I don't know what the rate was. It was well over $100 an hour at the time, and do you need to get that? I give you work all year long. He's like, Bob, I got 7 other Bob Turners I can go work for if this doesn't work for you. I'm like, okay. guess I'll just carry your number.
Right.
Right. And if we don't get it, we don't get it, you know? So I don't know. It's crazy. It is. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what 10 years out looks like, man. You know,
As terrible as this is of me to say, we need a dip in the economy to straighten some of this shit out.
mm-hmm.
There's a lot of
bring on 2008.
I know, because there's a lot of people that have been made, and for those listening, not watching, I'm using air quotes, that have been made successful because of the supply and demand issue that we have. So too many people have started their own business for the wrong reasons, and they're getting paid to do the work. And too many people have been put into positions that they have no business being in. I could go on for an hour about superintendents right now, because it's lacking. The reality is we have more work than workforce, and we need a shift because we need to filter out some of the shit right now and be able to kind of recenter this and get some of the right people and start attracting these right things. But I mean, when I was out west, you know, you could start as a framer working in Tahoe as a framer with zero experience for $35 an hour.
Right. Just to get you to show up.
Just to show up.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, cost of living out there is a little obnoxious, but the point is that there's a high monetary value that's not equivalent to the experience value that's being thrown out there, and it's hurting us. But people are like, well, I can be a food champion at Taco Bell for $20 an hour. I'm like, how can we compete with that?
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I remember in 2008, we had 5 guys. I was, my dad and I had started the business together. And at that time we were working together, and he would do the office, I'd do the field. And I had about 5 1099 carpenter guys working with us. And it went all the way down to just me and another guy, and, you know, me with a belt on and doing things. And what I noticed is that you had your great guys, you know, your great subs and people that you could count on. Then you had the okay guys in the middle and the shitty guys, you know, right? Well, what happened is the shitty guys went out the back. The good guys kind of became shitty. And the great guys were just kind of good. There was nobody great that you could count on. And so it did reshuffle the deck. That's why I say I would welcome that again, as hard as that would be to go through. It would be a complete level set of things where all of a sudden, okay, now you want something done. You're going to get someone that's skilled at it. You're going to get somebody who made it through this downturn, which is no small task, who show that they're actually running a business. And here in Maine, anybody can be a contractor. You don't need to be licensed. You, as an electrician and plumber or any specialty contractor, yes. But a GC, developer, anything like that, you can slap a magnet on the side of your truck and call yourselves a GC. So with little to no experience. Full disclosure, that's literally what I did. You know,
I was going to say,
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Missouri, you can do the same thing with a beer in your hand. So you don't have to.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Crazy.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob,
well, I'm going to have to get you on my podcast.
Man, we'll set a date. And once we stop recording, I've got a favor to ask of you. But man, so good to meet you. I think it's good for the listeners. Like, this first time we've actually met.
I've always seen you, and I'm like, I like this cat. He seems like he's, you know, kind of doing this. We're kind of on a path, like a parallel path, kind of helping the same people. So it's really nice. I'm grateful that Steve brought it up, and grateful for the opportunity to come on and just shoot the shit and get to know you a little bit. Yeah,
same, my friend, same. So, well, I think we're going to be we got to do something together in the future.
I know.
There's too much like-minded opportunity here, Bob.
I'll be in Houston the last third week in May at Steve's thing. So I don't know if I'll cross paths with you in his community, but definitely at some point, let's definitely connect and do more together. I'd love that.
You got it. All right, guys, thanks for spending this time with us. Get out there, get shit done. Be proud to be a tradesman. See ya.